everybody, what's up? Don Carr here with Andy Wood. Andy, man, good to see you.
Hey,
dude.
good to be here, Don.
Man, let's talk tone, dude.
Yeah.
That track is smoking. Oh my gosh, that's off your new record, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's, name of the tune is Shoot the Sun Down.
Shoot the Sun Down.
And it's kind of like my love affair with cinematic scores, and if I had to maybe create a soundtrack for a Western that was set in space or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, it's epic, man. It's got all those epic qualities to it. That's
Gunslinger
great.
type of vibe with the,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's great, man. And a lot of great tones, a nice variety of great tones out of a pretty straightforward setup.
Right.
You know, which I think is a testimony to like not only how great the gear is, but how adept you are at understanding what it can do and manipulating it to get what you want it to be.
Yeah, it's funny you
know?
say that the word manipulating. I was actually going to be like, dial in on that.
Dial
Just
in.
like yeah, it's really the manipulation of it all. For me, everything kind of really starts with what a core fundamental sound is. And by that, I just mean like, what does the amp feel like and sound like, and what does the guitar sound like with just a couple of accoutrements?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a pretty straightforward sound. And then I want to hear what each pickup does in that environment as well, right? And I just kind of take an inventory in my mind of all of those sounds, and then start sprinkling in the overdrives and the delays. For me, so much of you know, being able to play and feel comfortable is having the amplifier feel like it's in a space.
Yeah, I get
And
that, man.
that's tricky because everybody and their brother makes a reverb or a delay, you know, and it's always a challenge. I mean, some of my favorite records have some of the craziest delays and spatial type things on them, but they're not what I always refer to as like a gag effect.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like
Yeah.
that's like the Pink Floyd
Right.
running thing,
Right.
or the YouTube dotted 8
Sure.
thing that every church owes royalties to. But yeah, when I think of like my favorite delays, you know, it's like Austin City Limits EJ, Van Halen Carnal Knowledge,
Yeah,
where it
right.
feels like there's all this space
It's
around
space,
it.
exactly,
Yeah.
man.
And Timmons obviously has
Yeah,
been
sure.
such a Obi-Wan Kenobi mentor figure to me. In no shortage that I have his Halo effect.
There you go,
creating
man.
that space and you know, coming up as a sideman. One of the things that I found myself doing was constantly making regurgitation patches. So the same patch over and over with different amounts of delay.
Sure.
So once I kind of learned from him to put it on a gas pedal,
Yeah.
you know, it's easier to say, show me, don't tell me, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah. Or nothing.
Or nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and so it allows me to really play the effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I've got a really filthy signal with a lot of childish licks, I can pull that delay out and those will cut through.
Right. And then when you hit one big long note, you can bring it
Cape
back
blowing
in.
on the
Yeah, right.
wind, mountaintop, you know, just...
The epic.
It is, right? But there's so much inspiration to be had, and I feel like when I play good, I'm inspired by the things that are happening around me, and part of that is making sure my amp doesn't just feel like a flat space.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. It maybe starts here, but if you're not inspired here, you know, in your ears and your brain, it's like it may not come across.
It's a bit of a cyclical thing.
Yep, it
right?
is, man. It is.
So from there, I think, you know, it's important to be like, okay, the MSG to my tone, I use that term all the time, is my Woodshed compressor. And like, if we have that opening line with just a little bit of delay, let's get that delay. It'll be all that stuff, but I'll have... Now with the compressor. it feels like the record is mixed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it
and
does,
it's like,
man. It does.
it's the thing you don't notice until it's gone. And then you're like, hey man, what happened to the feel good button? You know? So that's what Woodshed is to me. And then from there, when I go left to right on my presets, it's just more drive. And I actually kind of choose my drives based around my lead tone, which is the Gearbox. It's the most like silky kind of tone. Let's just take a quick listen at what that is, and I'll use that same lick. And from there, I'll work backwards and fill in the gaps of the light overdrive and the medium overdrive. So if we have that like coming down from that amount of gain, I'll switch over to the Wampler Pantheon. And with the Pantheon, I'll actually use probably anywhere from here to here.
Okay.
But I am hitting Pantheon with the Gearbox, or with the Woodshed.
Yeah.
So that sounds like this. Okay, so that sound is a little more compact. You know what I mean? It's a little more focused and less heroic and gargantuan.
Yeah,
So-
it does feel a little bit tighter, even though the Gearbox sound is still very articulate. It's not like you're missing any of the
Right.
notes at all, but it's just like, yeah, that's just less gain.
It's a bit like a hero thing, right? Like if it's like I play, you know, maybe 30 or 40% of the song on that kind of sound, but when I go to like what would be the solo or the improvised section where I'm like really the biggest, that's where
Yeah.
Gearbox will come in and be that like mega heroic, biggest low end,
Right.
most gain kind of sound.
Right.
And so everything's kind of fitting between what the raw tone is of the amp and the clean sound and what the most extreme thing is. So coming back from that towards the clean side will be a combination of the EQ, and the EQ's got a bump at like 400, I think. I always like it at like 400 and like 3 or 2.5
Yeah.
or 3.2.
Just
or
give you some of that snap up
just
on the
both
top
sides,
and-
yeah. And that kind of lives on my clean channel. That's a little more common when I'm using a British flavored amp. You know, when you're on a blackface, they kind of already give you
do that.
those two frequencies. So this would be like what the in-between is. It's got the AT mod and the EQ and the Woodshed all together kind of on it. So it's a... You know, feels really complete.
It does, man. It's interesting because it almost feels clean, even though you know there's a lot of hair on
Right.
it, but it almost feels clean because there's so much note separation.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I have a simple board, this is like not my biggest board.
Yeah.
This is not my
Right.
ego board, right? This one kind of split into, you know, clean and what I would consider clean lead, if there's such a thing.
Sure.
And then I would have crunch and then lead. So it's a bit of like two flavors of the same duality.
Right.
And then I have my gag effects across the top,
Yeah.
like the fuzz.
Yeah.
And the fuzz is a really important part of this new record. You and I were talking off camera. In previous records, I was always seeking out this perfect lead tone and just obsessed with the lead tone,
Yeah.
you know. And on this record, I was like, okay, I'm happy with my voice. Now, what can I do to paint with other colors around
Yeah.
it? So we really got deep in the weeds. Ben and I got deep in the weeds and like, man, what's a gnarly fuzz, or what can do some really cool lead tones that aren't the pristine hero lead tone.
Right.
So let me show you what this fuzz is. This fuzz is the GNI. It's made in South America. And with it, I'm always running it in front of a distortion pedal. So the gearbox is on, and I'll play, and then I'll bring in the GNI.
Okay.
So as you can tell, it tracks well.
It
you know,
does,
so if
man.
I'm playing
and it's
something
nice and consistent too, but it's got, boy, it has that whistle up on the top, man.
Right.
It's nice, man.
Right. To me, tracking is a really important thing, especially with alternate picking.
Yeah.
If I have something that's So again, it's like, I like that it gets a little Velcro-y, but it doesn't completely fall apart.
Yeah,
You know,
not
when you're playing quick, you can still tell what's being played. It's just mutating it, making it ugly, putting an octave on it. It's doing a lot of things all at the same time.
Yeah, but it's keeping up.
And it's keeping up.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a real
not just
test.
trash. It's not just, which that's kind of a cool sound too, but it's an effect.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, precisely. So it's, you know, when I'm carving that kind of thing out, and of course, we're just talking about like the hero parts. On that Shoot the Sun Down tune, you know, when it comes to the rhythms, Ben and I had a really great time, you know, experimenting with like, I've got a really great Diesel Herbert, and I just use it as a rhythm machine, which is great. Ben's got a really fantastic Friedman amplifier that we had a lot of fun with, layering things in and placing things together. That tune's got a wall of guitars. There's baritone on that. Shout out to the folks at Fender for sending over a baritone. I've been spending a lot of time hanging out with my boy Mark Lettieri.
Oh yeah,
who's
man.
addicted to baritones, right? And now he's passed on that habit to myself.
Oh man!
And so I had a lot of fun, kind of leaning into the spaghetti western side of the song, having that inspiration with tremolo and a low B being my left and right. Then I layered that with a left and right heavy chug part. And then I took I believe it was a Les Paul. Maybe it might be my Lemon Burst Les Paul. And then I put that into one of the high gain amps. I believe it was the Diesel. Left and righted that. And then so I create this huge
that's
low
a wash,
end.
man.
It's a big low end, but because none of the things were the same thing, the baritone's got a single coil. So it super low with a thinner sound, and then this fat Les Paul in the middle, and then it allowed the verses. I used my Mopar Orange Sir Classic for the verses, and then for the choruses and the big tones, I used this guitar. So when I play this song, like as a guy with one thing, I'm trying to do all of the things all at once, be all the different parts, which is where the switching comes in, kind of fake it. You know?
Yeah, but you got a nice color palette there, man.
Yeah,
you really do. I mean, it really it doesn't get too far away from the core tone, but boy, it changes the basic voice, you know.
Yeah, and
without being too esoteric about it, but you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean, and I think that's just being such a student of Eric Johnson and looking at how he can, you know, take four things that on their own don't really sound that great, and he turns them all four on, and it's the Venus Alto. Yeah. You know, when I'm thinking about that, I'm specifically talking about like the tube driver plus the blah plus the, and it like all of a sudden at the end of the food chain, it's like, wow.
When you turn on the memory man, it's like, okay, here we are.
Oh gosh, there it is, you know? Yeah. And so, you know, I've learned a lot from being that kind of student and a student of Timmons, and, you know, watching what he does with a clean channel Lone Star and then painting the colors around it. I've learned that, you know, gain stacking is something that really works for my style of playing. Again, there's a place for the straight in thing, but I always end up thinking that's more of a rhythm thing for me personally.
Right, and also, well, especially again when you're trying to cover this many sounds in one setting with one instrument and one amp and whatever. The straight in thing, there's a certain purity about it, but it gives you one great sound. Right. And you're
married to it.
Yeah, and you dial in that one great sound for a part, it's perfect. It's exactly what you want.
And so if we scope out in conversation, basically it turns into like, what's it like to be Don or Andy, the studio guy, and then what's it like to be, you know, the live guy? Yeah. Because you have to choose a different path.
Right. Well, and then for you, what's it like to be the guy creating the record and then the artist? You know,
totally.
There's that too, man.
And into that, you know, one of my favorite pieces of gear is Dan Steinhardt from England, his G3. All my boards have G3s. So this is the Atom. Okay. My bigger one has the more egocentric one, so I can have even more foolishness going on. But what I love is when I'm going to my lead tone, maybe this is probably the most important part from the engineered side of my sound and the mechanical side of my sound. When I go to lead tone, it's just the lead overdrive and the halo that's in the signal chain. Yeah. Because everything's looped in, and I'm not passing through all these other things. So not to start sounding like a guy that starts hearing the difference in the carpet, but if you A-B it and you hear it, it's undeniable, and you can't really go back from it. So, you know, the big telltales for me is like if I'm passing through a modulation or a fuzz or a wah or a volume pedal, it's like, gosh, now that's really coloring what should just be an overdrive pedal and a delay, and that's it.
Right. Because you can go, okay, well, great, we got a buffer. Well, then the buffer adds a thing. Well, it's like,
It does.
well, it doesn't have a buffer. Well, then now you're hearing the circuit, or you're hearing the cable.
I just don't want to hear any of it. Like, I don't want to hear any length of cable. I just want it to be that thing. So, you know, in a lot of ways, the most important piece of gear on the pedal board is the thing that's not creating any tone at all. It's actually just making sure that everything is pure.
It's workflow central is what it is, man.
Right.
Most definitely. Wow. Wow. Great, man. Great stuff. And again, such a huge variety of sounds out of a really like just compact rig, man. Compact pedal board, 1 amp, 1 guitar.
Yeah.
Man. Really nice, man.
Yeah.
Nice stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you, man.
Thanks, brother. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And if you have any questions about any of the gear that Andy's playing here, make sure to contact your Sweetwater sales engineer or check us out at sweetwater.com. Thanks.